Well, no, because you see, when Windows 10 is stupid, and you got to use a special third-party thing called Power Tools in order to use a hot button for a hotkey for muting. So
You need
can
a
I mute?
Mac.
Can I mute now? No, shit. Where is
You
it
need a
at?
Mac. All of this media shit you do, you need to go Mac. Once you go Mac, you don't go back.
Never go
No,
back.
I'm sorry. I still prefer to have all the freedom. The fact is that I could easily fix this issue by downloading an app. I didn't need Apple's
Or you could just not
permission
have
to
the issue at
freaking
all,
do it.
and then you wouldn't even have, we wouldn't be having this conversation. The problem would be fixed.
Mm.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bring Geek Radio, the podcast, the flagship and international podcast of LRMonline.com, as well as the Genreverse Podcast Network. I am one of your hosts today, Joseph Jammer Medina, and we kind of have a super skeleton crew today. And by that, I mean we have me, Jammer, as well as one Danny Bartlett here with us. Hey there, Danny. How are you?
That must mean I'm the other host. If you're one of them, then I must be the other one. And
You're the other.
Which one of us is the skeleton one? And am I looking thin? Is that the problem? Is it the lighting?
I mean, you always look thin. Between all of us, you definitely look the thinnest, but not in a grotesque way or a horrifying way, but in a way that is like, okay, well, you're obviously a healthy person, so
I
congratulations.
obviously eat less calories.
Eat fewer
That's
calories.
what you're saying. All right. So we've got two hosts and one of them skeletal. Fair enough.
Skeletal hosts. Done. All right, well, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. This is actually, considering how few people we have today with us, we still have a lot of great shit to talk about. Specifically, we got two primo pieces of content to discuss, one of which is going to be the Stranger Things season 4 Stranger Things. Did you have a chance to see all that, Danny?
Yes, sir. All clued up. Clued up. Yeah.
All okay. Yeah, me as well. As you heard last week or the week before, I don't remember anymore. I didn't think I would be able to finish it. I thought like, hey, I'll probably be near the tail end of season 4 by the time this episode comes here. But weekend started. I started episode 1 and I was like, fuck, this show's dead. This show's gone. Like it's gonna be done by the weekend, and it was. So I guess a little tease for what I thought about the show was there right away. And then of course, Thor: Love and Thunder has just hit theaters, I believe worldwide at this point, or a lot of major territories, including North America. And it is receiving reviews that I think are not as unanimous as many would like it to be. But more on that and our opinions later on in the show. For starters, let's take a swing over to, or I guess back to a different part of the MCU, specifically having to do with Doctor Strange, which I don't know if I really can believe it, but Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, I guess just came out like, what, a month and a half ago? Not even that? I mean, it hasn't been that long.
It's not been that long ago.
Was it April? It was April?
I'll look it up for you guys.
Wow.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, it's just weird to me because I was sitting in the theaters for Thor, and I was like, wow, it's been a while since. Wait, no, it hasn't. I was just here like 5 seconds ago.
May 6th.
Watching Doctor Strange.
May 6th.
May 6th. So that's less. That's like 2 months. 2 months exactly. It's insane. Anyway, so let's go ahead and talk about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. This is a little something that's revealed via the audio commentary of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. The writer, Michael Waldron, stated that, so I'm trying to think here if I can get this specifically done. In a previous ending of Doctor Strange, that movie, 616 Doctor Strange would have been trapped in the Incursion universe, while the evil Strange would have taken his place. So to be clear, 616 is our beloved Doctor Strange, and the evil one is obviously the evil Doctor Strange that we saw him going up against. So that probably would have been, in my opinion, that walking scene at the end where he goes to his knees and he goes, and you see the third eye. I bet we would have had something, a reveal where it would have been the evil Strange instead of the good Strange, which wouldn't have made sense, would have pissed me off, would have been annoying. I would have hated it, but I still would have been like, oh, what's going to happen? And it almost would have seemed to be like almost a placeholder of the secret invasion type thing, where it's like it's not a scroll, but it is someone else who they don't like. So it's just really interesting to me. How do you feel about this quote unquote original ending?
Well, I think the
Yeah.
big story here really was the fact that it was meant to come out before Spider-Man, wasn't it? Which is what I understood from the article, was that it was actually going to be coming out before Spider-Man, which is why that alternate ending, the original ending, was going to be that way. That would have then made sense why Doctor Strange, as we would have known him, obviously thinking he was our Doctor Strange, was so quick to be convinced to brainwash the entire planet and let everybody forget who Peter Parker was, etc., etc. So that was the big takeout from that they changed all of that purely because of what was happening with the scheduling and release dates and things.
It would have justified his weird, personality, I guess, quote unquote weird personality in Spider-Man Far From Home. Wait, No Way Home.
Because in Endgame, he's pretty resolute. When there's a decision to be made, he sticks by it, right? He won't waver from what needs to be done. And in this one, it was almost like, oh, well, twist my arm, then that was easy. I'll do this for you. So I mean, I could have seen how that would have worked, because that could have been then, like you just said, then he comes out at the end and we think, that was why he was making these weird decisions, because it wasn't our Doctor Strange, it was the evil one. I can see how that could have worked. Like you, though, I would have felt a bit miffed by that. I would have felt it was a bit of a cop-out, because I'm assuming we would have been watching that whole movie assuming that he was our Doctor Strange, right? And so to suddenly have the rug pulled out from under us might have been a bit of a leap too far. But it's an alternate ending. It's not the one we're going to get. I don't know if that would have made the film better or worse. I have no idea.
I mean, I think it would have made it worse. I think it would have made it worse, and I think it would have made Spider-Man No Way Home, because I think Spider-Man No Way Home, it's good enough to where I can forgive Doctor Strange being the way he is. It's kind of something you have to suspend your disbelief on a bit. People make a big deal about things, like just like how people make a big deal about, Reed Richards would never have said the word mouth because he would have given Scarlet Witch an opening to erase his mouth, which he did. But who in their right mind would have known, clearly, if I say the word mouth, his mouth's going to be gone. That is not a logical conclusion anyone in the moment could come to instantly. I don't care how smart you are.
I did read an interesting, I'm not sure what the word is, you help me out, but a rebuttal to that, in the sense that, Reed Richards is the smartest man on the planet, etc. But that doesn't mean he's necessarily a good tactician when it comes to open warfare. He might be the smartest man and be able to calculate stuff, but it doesn't mean he's the best leader in a battle, so to speak, right? Like Captain America, right? He's not the smartest man, but if you want someone to lead you in a battle, he's the person I would pick, right? That was their kind of way of getting around that. It's like, okay, he did make a bit of a mistake, but this is where you have to put your headcanon in. And like you just said, you have to just forgive these little things to let the movie flow on and enjoy the ride, right? So those minor decisions like that, it's like, well, okay, but
and I still don't think any logical person would have thought, I better not tell him the ability, otherwise she's going to erase his mouth. I just don't think that's not a viable logical option anyone's going to come to. Yeah, we know it as an audience, but they don't know it. It's fans. Come on, this is your weekly dose of Jammer hates fans. That should be a weekly segment here. But another thing is interesting with regards to just the way that things are shifting in terms of schedule. And I don't remember offhand. I tried to look it up, but I couldn't find a specific date. But if I recall, back when James Gunn was originally going to do Guardians of the Galaxy 3 before he was fired and then went to DC for a bit, I'm not mistaken that they were going to actually release that either directly after, sooner after Endgame than Thor Ragnarok, right?
Yeah, it was originally slated for May.
Not Ragnarok.
Guardians 3 was originally slated for May 1st, 2020. Before it was dropped.
May 1st, 2020. Yep. So that is interesting to me. I wonder how much Thor had to change, or how much his draft of Guardians had to change. Did he have to find a way to segue Thor out? I wonder how that might have changed things. And it's just one of the many interesting things about this is just how just shifting the date of things can really just alter how movies end and segue into each other, just how increasingly dependent they are on each other. That is not necessarily a good thing, but
No.
I think that it's been interesting how these movies both seem increasingly dependent and independent of each other. They try to be standalone. They try to be complete stories within themselves, but at the same time, they also rely heavily on your investment in the characters from previous films. And it's just, I think it's probably one of the reasons why it's also kind of like seems to be, I don't know, suffering fans' criticism these days more than usual. I know you haven't been a huge fan, Danny, of the MCU much since Endgame, and you verbalized them at a couple points, but now that you've seen Thor, you don't need to bring up your opinion about Thor, but how has your opinion updated on this?
It's updated only in the sense that now I'm even more concerned, and I can't go any more than that until we talk about Thor itself, particularly towards the end of the movie. But yeah, it's not filling me with much faith at the moment, and I don't know if this change in schedule would have made it any different. If they're going the route that they seem to be going, which I can't actually tell what that is, but it seems to be multiverse.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, what route is that? I don't know where they're going.
Yeah.
Like with these
seems
characters.
To be multiverse. Yeah, it seems to be. I don't know if flipping those two movies around or these three movies around would have made any difference. I can't see it somehow. I'm like you. I'm hoping now things have settled, touch wood, in the world of movie making and the world in general, that now as they're making these films, they can settle on a path and link them how they want to link them, and not suddenly have to change course direct and reboot and refix and edit and all that kind of stuff, which I don't think is helping at the moment. So yeah.
All right. Any last words about Doctor Strange 2's original ending?
No.
All right. Well, let's go into
the one we got.
To the TV side of things, or the Disney Plus side of things. We were all treated to a pleasant surprise in two occasions recently. One was in Spider-Man No Way Home, where one Matt Murdock showed up in the movie. And then, of course, in Hawkeye, I guess it was earlier this year. No, it was last year. I don't remember if it was earlier this year or late last year. It was November last year, where we had Kingpin show up. And not just, Matt Murdock and Kingpin, but the Matt Murdock and Kingpin from the Daredevil Netflix series, officially making these the canon and definitive versions of those characters. It's still not 100% clear if they are like the same exact versions as in the Netflix series, but it's very clear that at least Marvel was super pleased with their interpretations on the small screen. And now it looks like that both characters, Kingpin and Daredevil, will also be showing up in the new Echo series, which is a spinoff of Hawkeye. We were introduced to the deaf character over the runtime of that series. She was like villain turned somewhat, I guess, morally gray, ambiguous type character who ultimately didn't end up being, I guess, a big villain for them. What are your thoughts on, first of all, what were your thoughts before this was announced, or before this news came out, and regarding the Echo show? Was this something you were excited for? And then did this, I guess, rumor actually make you more excited for what the show will have to offer?
I think it did. I wasn't. Echo was one of those shows for me that was like, well, I don't think I'm excited for it, but based on, because I actually really enjoyed Hawkeye and I actually liked her character in that. So it's not something, as we were watching the show, that I was thinking, oh, I hope they make a spin-off show with her.
Right. But
when it was announced, I was like, well, okay, I'll be down with that if they make a good one out of it. I was okay with it. I mean, happy to see what they do with it. But to hear that these two characters we were just talking about, or particularly these iterations of these characters with these actors, I'm happy about it, because Daredevil was my favorite of all the Marvel shows that was on Netflix, without a doubt. I'm glad that they've seen the quality that was there, that both of those actors brought to those roles, and see them as being good enough, should we say, strong enough to come onto the big screen. So I'm super happy about that. I hope they do keep the same exact character variations, but with them using the same actors, they could vary them a little bit, maybe change their backstory a little bit. Ultimately, I think we're going to see the same versions of those characters. So I am more excited about Echo now, knowing that these two characters, and let's face it, they are going to pop up at some point, probably more Kingpin than Matt Murdock, from what I can tell. But I'm happy to have them both. Yeah, for sure, 100%. I'm looking forward to seeing them on the big screen stuff, though. I want to see those films a bit more.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I definitely want to see also Kingpin clash with Spider-Man at some point. That'd be cool.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll see if we actually fully get to that point. He seems pretty steeped in the Marvel Studios specifically side of things. So who knows there? But I wasn't too thrilled with the idea of Echo. Echo was a character who I thought worked as a supporting character, but I didn't know if I found her interesting enough to have her own show. So I was like, yeah, I'll watch it, but I don't really know what to expect. I don't really know where it can go or what sort of things they're going to be picking up on. But this makes me a little bit more excited, gives me a little bit more investment. And, it's probably exactly what Marvel is banking on, at least, is us. Because this is like a side character of a side character. Hawkeye was a side character, or Hawkeye was a side character. It mostly followed, the new side character, and she was a side character within that. So it's like really making sure we are invested in these side characters is like help bring in some bigger guns to bring us along the process. I hope they still manage to make her more interesting as a character in her own show. But yeah, this will at least get me more readily in the door and excited to see what happens. So I think this is great news.
Yeah. So as you're talking, I'm listening, and I'm also thinking maybe Kingpin's going to be used more in a flashback way, because as we know, the end of Hawkeye had a rather ambiguous gunshot and stuff. So do you think that maybe it's more of Echo and Kingpin's story in the past, and that's how they're going to be used? I mean,
it's a good point, because if we're going to spoil Hawkeye, because it's been months, he is responsible for the death of her father.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see definitely the flashback being used, but I also think that he can be utilized in a more direct villainous capacity. Maybe
we certainly don't think he's actually been killed.
No,
he was off screen.
God, no. The dude was
killed,
exploded, hit by cars, and all this shit. Like he's basically a one-piece character, as far as his durability goes. And maybe 5 of you understand what I mean by that, but he is just, there's no killing this guy. So yeah, we didn't see a body, but yeah, I could definitely see him being as the main villain, and then Echo and Daredevil teaming up. It also is an interesting dynamic. Have one person who's blind, one person who's deaf. How that's all going to work, that dynamic, could be interesting between the two of them. So actually, just speaking out loud, saying that made it interesting. Not familiar with her in the comics at all, so I don't know if she actually has any regular interaction with Daredevil there, but it seems like a dynamic that is worth exploring. So kudos for them, and hopefully I'm hoping they're relatively regular, in the same sense that like Yelena was in Hawkeye, not necessarily like a main character, but close to a main character. Like I think there's enough reasons to incorporate them into the main story in a big way, as opposed to just, hey, I'm Daredevil, adios, and then, oh, hey, I'm Kingpin, and I'm just showing up, my big ugly face here, and now I'm gone.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I can't. I can't see that.
Next up, we are moving to Star Wars. This is actually just a little just fun little nugget that I just think is funny, because it just shows.
I wore my shirt specially wore my t-shirt specially. Because after the disappointment of some Marvel stuff, no spoilers, I'm happy that this little world is getting better and better after some recent big screen disappointments. So carry on. I will touch my chest whilst you speak.
Well, we'll talk about that particular aspect, I think, in a moment. But right now, the funny story was just Taika Waititi apparently trying to pitch Natalie Portman on a Star Wars movie. He's quoted saying, Natalie said to me, what do you want to do next? And I said, I'm trying to work on the Star Wars thing. Have you ever wanted to be in a Star Wars movie? She said, I've been in Star Wars movies. I forgot about those ones. And then he laughed. I just think that's super funny. It's just stupid, but it's just, I forgot. I mean, I didn't forget, but at the same time, I could see myself doing that too, where it's just like, hey, you want to be in a Star Wars movie? It's like, oh, wait, never mind. I forgot that. Yeah. It's been so long since I've seen a prequel film, and I just try to force myself to forget those movies that, just cast her again. Who cares?
Maybe we've got a bit of an inkling on how Taika feels about the prequels without him saying, "Tell me how you don't like the prequels," by not telling me how you don't like the prequels.
Yeah, that's fair. Or I can even see him being as someone who's like, who didn't see them, didn't watch them.
Yeah.
Just didn't do it. So not much of a story there, but I just thought it was funny. With regards to actual story, Andor is a series that is increasingly interesting to me. I know this is one that really is being touted as, this is like the blockbuster Star Wars show. And, I would have thought that this was Obi-Wan Kenobi, like that would be the blockbuster show. But as we saw, that was not the case. It was kind of bland, kind of weird. They shot a lot in the volume, so there was some awkward blocking. But Andor, from everything I've heard, they're filming that, I believe in Europe and Pinewood Studios and actual sets and actual locations. They're treating it exactly like an actual Star Wars movie. And they really have ambition to really go above and beyond. And so Tony Gilroy, who, if you don't recall, he is not only a great film figure, I guess, so to speak, but he also helped fix Rogue One. We never got to see how bad Rogue One was prior to him, but apparently they needed to throw out a lot and just basically restart. I want to say around 30 to 50% of it, depending on who you speak with and depending on the rumors that you read at the time. So he came in, essentially wrote and co-directed, or excuse me, ghost directed a good chunk of the film. So bringing him in for this makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
So one interesting aspect comes with him speaking from Empire. He explained how season 2 will jump 4 years in the span of 12 episodes, and it leads directly into the events of Rogue One. Here's what he said. Directors work in blocks of 3 episodes. So we did 4 blocks in season 1 of 3 episodes each. And the article said the shooting schedule organically led to season 2's different structure. We looked and said how it'd be really interesting if we came back and we use each block to represent a year. We'll move a year closer with each block. From a narrative point of view, it's really exciting to be able to work on something where you do a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then jump a year. So what do you think about this overall unique structure they have going on for the Andor series? And does it make you more excited for what the show has to offer? Danny?
Yeah, it does. And the first reason why I say it does make me more excited about it, in fact, when we read this article for tonight's show, I actually rewatched the trailer for Andor, which they dropped a couple of months ago. Well, the first thing is the fact that they are that confident and happy with what's happened in the filming of season 1 means that they want a season 2, and that was part of the plan. So that fills me a bit more confidence of what we're actually going to see in the first season. And then when I rewatched the trailer, I got those feelings back of I really want to watch this, because in the trailer, I don't know if you remember, Jammer, but there's no laser fire, there's no Star Wars stuff that we would be, so we say, familiar with, other than a few shots of some stormtroopers. Even the Imperial outfits and stuff aren't the ones that we're kind of familiar with. And I love all that. And you can see that they've gone to different locations and they're using, or certainly gives the impression they're using big real sets. And it's just making me feel like this actually is going to be something we haven't seen before. And that's exciting, considering that obviously Star Wars recently has been rehashing, as much as I love it, rehashing what we've seen before. There's characters we've never seen before. There's aliens we've never seen before. A lot of humans at the moment, not much aliens, but ultimately, I digress a little bit. I'm excited about it. It means that they have a good plan for it. What it makes me feel is that season 1 is going to be setting up the rebellion and how that's all growing and how he joins and becomes part of it. And then I get the feeling that season 2, those little weekends that you just mentioned, the Friday to Sunday, jumping a year, I get the feeling they're going to be maybe self-contained little episodes, little episodic adventures that he's going on to find pieces of a greater plan. There's a link between all 3, but 3 different, shall we say, missions. So that makes me excited. It's going to be on different planets and we're going to explore different things and have different characters every 3 episodes for 3 episodes. So I like it. I like the fact that it's new. I like the fact that it's fresh. It was a character, again, that I didn't realize that I actually wanted to see a backstory, a side story, their own story after watching Rogue One. And I really enjoyed Rogue One. It's one of my favorite Star Wars films. I'm not always, not everyone always agrees with that. Yeah, exactly. But he wasn't like, oh, I wish we had more of that character. I wonder if he gets a spin-off show. Just like we were talking about Echo, I think it's exactly the same as Echo. But once again, we've got news now that makes me more excited about what it is. So, and that's great. And I'm always cheering for Star Wars. And you know, the shows we've had recently have been getting better and good. We had some wobbles with Boba Fett, etc. But I'm loving the Star Wars stuff at the moment. So long may it continue, and I can't wait for it to drop. Do we know when season 1 is coming? I'm sure we know. I'm sure it's somewhere. Producer Kyle,
we do.
Yeah, it's August. It's August. I'll get you the exact date.
It's awesome.
I'm getting the exact date. No, I'm not. I'm not getting the exact date. It's not in the trailer notes. So
Andor hits August 31st on Disney Plus.
Brilliant.
Damn it! I just got. You beat me.
This is my job.
I know. How dare you do better at your job than me? Anyway, so Andor, I'm with you on that one. Like, I didn't want to see this character that much. Didn't care. Rogue One isn't a movie that I really like. It's a movie that I feel like relied too much on connections and not enough on standing by itself. And that's why I think fans like it. I feel like they like it for the wrong reasons, to be perfectly honest. They're like, oh, I like it because it's our Darth Vader swing the things into the face with Darth Vader. Like, that's what I feel like. That's like, oh, look at the shots from the Star Wars Episode 4 unused footage and stuff along those lines, and not as much about the
Yoda then. You started to talk like Yoda then. Were you aware of that?
But anyway,
I gotta say this. I gotta jump in on this because the one things or the two things I love most about Rogue One, the ground battle and the fact that it's the only Disney Star Wars movie to actually have a battle in freaking space. I'm not counting the bombing run. That was stupid. An actual battle with dogfight in space.
The bombing run
in Last Jedi. Your stupid freaking wannabe B-52 bombers. That awful scene.
The part where Kylo Ren or when Kylo Ren's crony almost killed Leia. That space battle.
No, the bombing run and being chased and just having.
You're not liking it because the orbit, because it's in orbit, so it doesn't count. You're like that guy from Armageddon. We're not even in outer space yet. We're just in inner space.
Why not? But literally every movie ignored the Star Wars part of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And Rogue One had the best dogfight action we've had since Return of the Jedi.
You're full of shit. Mm-mm. That was in orbit too.
No, it's not. I'm not, dude. It's in space. It's not in the atmosphere. It's not on a ship. It's in space. It's spaceships fighting. Yeah. It's Star Destroyers shooting at each other. It's not just a fucking chase. It's a star battle. It's a space battle. The shit in Rise of Skywalker, not a space battle. That's in atmosphere.
I'm not even consider
the crap in Starkiller Base, again, in atmosphere. Both of their They had a really cool battle on the planet that Maz is from, but that was still in atmosphere. The best thing that you get is some pot shots from a chase and then the bombing run in Last Jedi. I know you like the bombing run. It's okay to like trash. I like some trash too, Jammer, but Rogue One had great Star Wars. Producer Kyle, out.
Get over yourself, Producer Kyle.
Mic dropped.
Get over yourself. Anyways, the show itself the movie itself had narrative issues, but I'm intrigued, and I think what I'm most intrigued about with the series is the fact that we're essentially, it seems like it's telling multiple stories within each season, which will hopefully prevent the Boba Fett / Obi-Wan problem, where I was just like, or even Mandalorian, be like, where the fuck are we done yet? Like, are they done just glacially walking across the screen? Can we have more than one thing happen per scene, please? And propel us forward in a kinetic and quick way. It's just not something that I have experienced effectively in any Star Wars series yet. And I'm hoping this is the first one to do that. And by condensing the season into a few different subplots, maybe you can effectively do that, tell those multiple stories. I guess, I don't know how specifically what these are going to be structured as, but being able to have, like you said, the different missions is a possibility. And maybe even kind of pull that more episodic nature from, the likes of Star Trek. And so, that's pretty much it. I'm excited for it. I'm more excited than I have been.
Yeah, it's certainly season 2, because that's what we're talking about with these episodes. I mean, I don't think from what the article said that season 1 is going to do that. I think that might be a bit more, should we say, formulaic as far as
wait. So it says we did 4 blocks in season 1 of 3 episodes each.
Oh, they did. Sorry, I mean, okay. I thought that was the season 2 they were talking about. Okay, well,
no.
I take it back. Even better then. Yeah, great. That means we hopefully will get something different then, like you said, than we had with certain parts of Mandalorian and with Boba Fett. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's only 6 weeks away. That's great.
Yeah, Kyle, can you clarify?
Yeah, I'll clarify for you guys. So, season 1 is just one year. This series covers five years before Rogue One. The first season, they have the directors in their blocks, 3 episode blocks. Season 2 is going to basically be the same thing, 3 episode blocks, but each block takes up a year in season 2.
Got it.
So that's so you get the block thing with directors in both seasons, but season 2 will be like what you guys were discussing earlier with self-contained arcs. Well, not completely self-contained, but you know what I'm saying. A single arc, not a big, huge overarching story. Other than we're headed to his death on Scarif, whatever.
Scarif, I think it's right.
Scarif.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I think this definitely increased my excitement for the series, and between that and everything else, I'm like, could Andor be the dark horse when it comes to quality Star Wars TV content? I really hope so. I'm not as in love with the Mandalorian as everyone else seems to be, so it's whatever. I think I wonder how much of me actually hates it or likes it less because people like it so much. I just don't get it. Like, I get some of the appeal, but I just don't get everyone talking about, oh, it's the best thing ever. But once again, that concludes this segment of Jammer Hates Fans in this episode of Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast. Anything else anyone wants to say about Andor or Star Wars as a whole? All right, well, let's go ahead and... Oh, yes.
No, I said, sorry, Dan, I said not yet, because I have comments when we get to a certain part of the show later, how it affects Star Wars.
So let's move from a galaxy far, far away to our favorite little Indiana town, Hawkins. This, I think, is interesting because I do often wonder about TV and how it's structured and what decisions they have about why things are certain lengths. I'm a huge complainer of modern TV, and everyone is like, oh, I want more minutes. Give me like hour plus long episodes of me. I'm usually like, stop at 45 minutes, please. I just don't have enough time for 55 minutes, for an hour, unless I'm really engaged with what you're showing me. Like, and I feel like a lot of times also the feeling I get is that we're really just indulging the filmmakers, and they're kind of lingering on shots and just dragging things out and just making it boring. And I always wonder, like, can someone like just chop it up a little bit, put the good parts closer together, and maybe not linger on some of these other parts? Like, I'm just a huge complainer about modern TV because of that, which is, I think, why I've been more drawn to film in recent, I could say maybe the past 5 years or so, is because it's less commitment and it's not drawn out. It's all about efficiency and storytelling for the most part. And that made me go into season 4 of Stranger Things with some trepidation, which we'll talk about later in terms of my overall thoughts. But I know going to the last couple episodes, I believe one was like an hour and 35 minutes long, the second to last episode. And then the last episode was basically 2.5 hours long. It was ridiculous thick boy. And I was like, why? Like, why 2.5 hours? Why not split it up? Why not make it 2 episodes? There's no reason. What is dictating? Are they just trying to go for like, hey, we have a feature-length episode? Like, how much of it is them just trying to be like, hey, we made a movie. We basically made a movie. We made a Stranger Things movie. Hope you enjoy it. But speaking with Collider, the Duffer brothers said the following. I think we just couldn't find a good spot to break it because there's almost an hour of build-up tension, and then it just goes hard for an hour. Then we have our 25 minutes of coming down the coda. It would have just not been a very satisfying episode to stop it after that first hour. In our opinion, it would have petered out. We didn't want to force an ending, so we just figured it'll just be this monster episode. If you want to pause it, go ahead. Danny, how do you think the final episode fared as 2.5 hours? And would you if given the keys to the Netflix kingdom, said, hey, cut it down the middle or cut it at some point?
I think I would have cut it. And the reason why I think that would have been easier than the Duffer brothers are giving their opinion on is because Netflix did drop all the episodes at once. So having that final episode cut into two would have been a fairly easy, because if someone wanted to carry on watching, they could have just pressed next episode, play straight away, and they could have gone into it. So I don't think it's as difficult as they were imagining. Now, had it been a week-to-week drop of a show like Apple has been doing and Amazon are doing, then maybe I could see an argument where we've got them invested this week, but they know it's coming. They know it's going to be 2.5 hours. They're going to sit down, go to the bathroom, and then prepare for it. But with Netflix's, not sure that's good English, but with Netflix formula, they're sticking to their dropping a season. Okay, this was slightly different. I think they could have done it. I think they could have made the last 3 episodes rather than the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, I agree with you. Because I feel like a lot of TV shows these days that are story driven, they don't really usually have an episode structure. It's just the story goes and then it ends. The story goes until you cut it off and move on to the next one. Yeah, you'll have like a point, a cliffhanger type point, but it's not structured in the same way as like, TV from the early 2000s and the 90s was, where it has.
I mean, they even said it themselves, didn't they? We had an hour of build up and then we went for it for 90 minutes. I'm like, well, have that hour of build up then, because by the time I've watched, let's say, episode 8, I'm fully invested, right? There's no way I'm not going to watch episode 9. I've watched 7. I've tuned back in. I've seen 8. 8's built up to this crazy, or 9's built up to this crazy thing. Oh, you left me there? Well, they're just about to go into the house, or they're just about to start the fight or whatever. Oh, shit, I can't wait till next week. Or in this case, Netflix case, just press play. Just skip to the next episode. So I think there was a natural break there. It would have been maybe frustrating if we had to wait a week, but I think we still would have waited a week and be talking about it around the water cooler and stuff. So, yeah, I don't buy it. I think the last episode, 2.5 hours, as much as I enjoyed certain aspects of it, could have been 2 episodes. We could have had 3 at the end. Could have had 3.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if it could have been 3. I think it could have been 2.
Okay.
3. I think.
Were you
3?
No, I meant 3 with the one that they dropped, and then the one that was 2.5 hours. I think that 2.5 hours one could be cut into.
Right.
I just meant 3 new episodes on July the 1st. That's what I meant.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree. You and I thought was also interesting, and this is, I agree with you. Though I'm not as I'm not super strong opinionated about it, because at the end of the day, as you said, it all kind of dropped on the same day. It almost doesn't matter how it's split up.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that they were asked a question about writing season 5 to have a deliberate break in the middle to allow for a staggered release in the vein of season 4. Matt Duffer said the following: I like what you're saying, which is if we were to do a split again, write more to the split, which we didn't do. We're lucky. We're lucky that episode 7, had that kind of ending with the Vecna reveal that was just fortunate. It was just extremely challenging to get 7 episodes out by May. I think it was the most challenging thing we've ever faced while making Stranger Things. So if we were to do it again, I would probably make the split earlier, like you're saying. I would write it into a narrative. I would love to see it all 8 at once, but it's also, people talk about it more when it's split up. It's a better way that you guys It's way better that you guys split it up. We're able to keep writing about it. What the fuck? It's way better that you guys split it up. We're able to keep writing about it. Okay, whatever. I don't agree with this. And the reason why I don't agree.
I was going to say I think that comment's the writer saying that they appreciate more time to cover it to put out more content.
I get it.
Yeah.
But it's not written that way. I think that's an error.
Yeah, that's what I don't know anyway.
Yeah. Anyways, so one thing I think is interesting is they seem to be ignoring the fact that I feel like, is it just me, or did this season have 2 distinct places to cut off at the end of episode 7 and the end of episode 4? They could have released this into 3 separate chunks, but they chose not to. Like, there was a very distinct moment, and I think, Danny, you're giving me the confused look. The big running up that hill moment.
Go on.
Well, the big running up that hill moment was a perfect place that Netflix, if they wanted to, could have cut it off. There was an earlier place to cut it off, and they didn't take it.
Yeah, there was.
They could have literally cut it into 3 chunks, and they didn't do it. I'm just surprised. Like, to me, I would have loved if they released the 3 episodes, and then at the end of the episode, I think it was episode 4 where that moment was. So, like, all right, come back in 2 or 3 weeks. or just release it week to week. Like that would have been a huge mic drop moment for me to experience it in that way. And then you have the Vecna reveal, episode 7, and then the end of it. Like it was there. It was there for you, Netflix. Why didn't you take advantage of it? This is me just telling Netflix, stop with the dropping of everything all at once.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I think
longer.
we're all, the one episode at a time has been great. I mean, that for the boys, and gives us a chance to talk about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, all the great shows that we have at the moment. It's been great to talk about it for a week, or maybe not a week, but to talk about it for a few days afterwards and have it then anticipation for the next episode. So yeah, Netflix seems to be sticking to their guns at the moment, but we got the new Stranger Things in 2024, I believe. So they got a couple of years to see how Netflix performs and see if they still have a business in 2 years' time, or whether we're going to be watching Stranger Things on Hulu or something like that. But certainly to see if they change their model over the next 2 years.
I think it's really funny that it seems like the only reason they split it up was because they couldn't quite finish them quick enough to release them in time. That's the only reason. It's like, come on, Netflix. They really are sticking to their guns.
Yeah.
Another weird little news, it's not really news, but I think is silly and kind of dumb, is the Stranger Things. The Duffer brothers want to release a pan and scan version of the series on Netflix. Danny, yay or nay?
No.
It's funny. I bought Die Hard on my Apple TV, and it's very clear that this comes from like an old DVD, because it has a special feature talking about the technology of pan and scan and why it's so good. And so check it out on Apple TV if you have it. They probably have that edition. It's really weird. It really is just like a time capsule. But yeah, no, we don't want the pan and scan. Just no, I'm good without it. But the more exciting news for me has to do with the Duffer brothers expanding their horizons a bit. You know, they have just started producing under a new banner called Upside Down Pictures, recommitting to Netflix with several new projects. So to start with, one project they have is, let's see here. I'm going to skip the one I really want to talk about, but they're getting a new original series from Jeffrey Addis and Will Matthews, who did Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance. Boring, I'm sorry, but hopefully the show's good. They're going to be adapting Stephen King and Peter Straub's 1984 novel, The Talisman, and they will create it alongside Amblin Entertainment and Paramount Television. So they seem tailor-made for Amblin, so perfect. The show is created by their co-EP for Stranger Things, Curtis Gwynn. And I'm sure it fits in their wheelhouse too, because Stephen King, basically this is like a Stephen King show. This show is like a Stephen King novel. They're creating a stage play within the world of Stranger Things. Okay, whatever. I guess it's created by a guy who's done The Crown, Billy Elliot, and The Reader. And they're going to be producing that alongside 21 Laps, which is Sean Levy's production company. And there's going to be a live action Stranger Things spinoff for Netflix based on an original idea by the Duffer brothers. This was mentioned, I think, a few weeks back, where they're like, oh, Netflix doesn't even know what we're doing. No one's going to see what's coming. So, Danny, before we get into the news that I'm excited about, I'm curious, what is going to be the Stranger Things spinoff?
I can't even think other than those other kids in season 2.
Ew, no.
No, I'm not saying I want that. I just can't think where the spin-off could come from, unless obviously the characters that survive go off and have other adventures. Is that the route that they go going in? Or I can't even think of it at the moment. I can't get my head around it. So yeah, I have no idea. It's either the characters go off on different adventures and get caught up in some other monster mayhem, or we go back to those other gifted kids from season 2, or was it season 3?
Kyle suggested maybe in early days of Hawkins' Lab. I don't know if there's much interesting stuff there enough, because personally, I mean, maybe you can follow Robin and Steve going to college. That could be good, though I'm not sure how much that would differentiate it from the original Stranger Things. What does that look for? You give me a
Well,
look like
why
it's
do
weird.
I want to watch two kids go to fucking college? Why is that interesting? What?
Well, I mean, they will come across their own series of strange things in the process. Come on.
Okay. Well, you're the writer.
It's not just going to be them. It's not going to be them just going to college and doing keg stands.
Okay. I guess I'm just having a problem. See, I guess right now I'm thinking I don't need a spin-off. I'm happy with the Stranger Things as
I'm not asking if you need one, Danny. I'm asking you what it's going to be.
I have no idea, and I'm kind of happy about that. You tell me, Jammer, because you're the writer.
I just said I threw out a perfectly cromulent theory.
What cromulent? What is that? Is that a Star Trek reference or a what theory?
I think it's a
cromulent theory.
I think it's a Simpsons reference. Anyway.
No, you can don't fudge over that. What the fuck is a cromulent theory?
It's literally just I think it's just a pull from something. Is cromulent a real word? I pulled on it because it's a reference, okay?
Okay, fair enough.
I don't know what the actual word means. Here, I'm looking it up. Cromulent, acceptable or adequate. There you go. I'm right.
Okay. You are. That's it. Well, actually, you know what? I'm enjoying that. I'm good. Acceptable or adequate. That's what cromulent means. Okay. I like that. I'm going to use that.
So my wife tells me all the time.
At the end of the show.
My wife says I am cromulent. Just narrowly, though. So I think that's what it is. I think it could be a Steve thing because I will follow Steve to the ends of the earth at this point. Steve, Robin, and Dustin are like my favorite characters. So I'll follow them. Yeah. But then again, I'm not sure if, like I said, it differentiates them enough from, if it's differentiating enough that they're off on their own. I'm trying to think of who was removed. Maybe we follow Murray. I don't know. It's a weird character to follow.
Well, actually, now you said that, I want to know Murray's backstory. Maybe that's the side story that I want, that I didn't know that I wanted. How he became the conspiracy theory hiding in the shadows character. What happened to him? His stories, because he must have some stories, the things he learned and the things he knows. There you go. That's it. Well done, Jammer. You've actually made me care now. I want Murray's story.
Murray. There you go. We call it Murray a Stranger Things story. That'll be the series.
Yeah. How about just Murray things?
Murray things.
Yeah, there you go.
Murray things.
A bit like the X-Files. Every episode is a completely different Murray thing. Another thing that he's discovered or found or solved. There you go.
So another project they have in the works is a new live-action series adaptation of the manga Death Note. So Death Note is Danny. I'm not sure, based on his face, doesn't seem like he's very incredibly familiar with the series. Am I correct in that assumption?
Only the recent movie that was on Netflix, right? That's the only iteration of this this manga comic that I'm aware of. And
did you see it?
Talking about it, yes, I did, and I actually quite liked it because I didn't know the source material at all, other than what you and Jonesy had told me like a few episodes before when it was coming out or something. So I had no point of reference, no expectations or whatever. I quite liked it. I quite enjoyed it. I think you guys liked it, but it wasn't quite what the manga was. Is that right? Or if I remember that rightly?
That's I thought it was. No, I didn't hate it. A lot of people hate it. I think it's a fun, ridiculous, and weird movie. I love who they got to play L, Lakeith Stanfield. I thought he was fantastic. I liked some of the stylistic elements they had for it, but it just wasn't the same cat and mouse game that the manga series is, where it's just, it's this weird guy or this really, really smart kid who is trying to stay and succeeding in staying ahead, like a couple steps ahead of the police, as through supernatural means, starts killing people off, trying to make the world a better place. And it's really great for most of the series. It falls off pretty hard in the last third of the manga series. Like, it's very clear at some point the artist and the writer were very much like, okay, we're done here. But then Shonen Jump was like, but you're really popular. Keep going. So they kept going, and it just didn't work. I frankly stopped reading, I want to say 5 chapters after it kept going, And then I was like, I just don't care anymore. Like I'm done. I'm just
Is it
done.
still going?
No.
No?
No. It ended pretty soon after that. I'm not
So
sure
you
how
did
many
actually
chapters
finish
it
it then,
is.
did you?
No, I
Did you
did not
actually
finish it.
You still okay? I know you were saying that you were almost done with it. I wonder whether or not you found out that it was only a few episodes left or chapters left or whatever they call them, and you persevered, but you didn't go to the end.
I did not. No, I think it was 10 volumes. 1, 2, 6, 8, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it was 12 volumes overall. And they're each about 200 pages of comic book pages each. So it's like it's a fairly concise story, like overall. Like it goes longer than it should. It should have ended essentially 3 volumes earlier, in my opinion. But anyways, this is a great opportunity for them, for the Duffer brothers. I hope that they write and direct it, at least, the first episode, or at least they show run it, because there is just so much potential. There's lots of, creepy things. It's not really a horror at all. It is straight up. It's a thriller. It's a supernatural thriller. And I think they have really an opportunity to sort of really lean into that unique style that I don't really think any series has. Any other series that I can think of really has, at least in America. Supernatural thriller. Usually one leans heavily into supernatural or thriller aspect. Combined, not as much. And even when I even think of something like, I don't know, Angel, it's not the same thing. Like it's very different. So I'm excited to see what they bring to it. I think they can really bring some credibility to the manga adaptation space. And I want it. I want it. Give it to me.
Good. Yeah, I'm not that familiar with source material, as we discovered, so I defer to your.
I mean, the basic aspect of it. Literally, he finds a notebook. He writes names because he starts becoming corrupt, and it's about him being chased by the police while staying ahead of the police. That's it. That's the series, and it's that's it in a nutshell, and just keeps going. Becomes more ridiculous as it goes on. So, do it, Netflix. It's the property I'm most excited for at this point.
Yeah.
All right, last thing that we'll be talking about before we head into our discussion, and that is the trailer of the week, and that is Clerks 3. That's right. Clerks 3 had its first, I guess, teaser or trailer, whatever you want to call it. I think it's basically a full trailer drop from Kevin Smith, and it certainly exists. It certainly is a trailer that exists. It's not bad, but it has some good aspects to it. For starters, not saying much. It looks like Kevin Smith's strongest movie in a long time. Just looking at it from a filmmaking perspective, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot looked like a student film visually. It looked awful. This one at least looks like it was made by someone who knows how to make a movie. I feel like that's a really mean thing for me to say, but this one looks like that. It looks like a movie, which is great. Too many callbacks for my taste, but that's like what Kevin Smith does. He always makes too many callbacks to things. Stop making callbacks. Just make a great story. But on the plus side, I do like the fact this movie has a nice emotional through line to it. It has like a direction that it's going, and hopefully has fun scenes that I like seeing the characters in. So I definitely will be seeing it regardless. I would see it even if it looked like shit, just because I'm like, I'll see it, whatever. I'll see this movie, but I really hope it's good. I enjoy Clerks 2. And I'm not definitely, I don't think it's the strongest movie. I just think it's probably in the upper half of his movies in terms of quality. So I hope this one at least maintains that and is good. That is, I think it's a solid movie and can stand alongside its other two. Danny, what is your familiarity with the Clerks movies? I know you're not a huge fan of Kevin Smith, but I'm not sure what your exposure has ever been to these, either Kevin Smith or Clerks.
I think possibly maybe once I saw the first Clerks film, possibly maybe. Only because when I watched that trailer about 5 minutes before we started recording this show, I recognized some people from it, but I don't know why or how. Maybe it's just because I remember a trailer for Clerks 2. here's the thing. I recognize that there are a lot of callbacks in this trailer, and because I don't know what they are callbacks to, other than references to the Death Star and stuff, I've got no point of reference. Therefore, I've got no joy for this whatsoever. It's all yours, Jam. I hope you enjoy it. End of story.
I just don't think this movie should have any callbacks in it. Just make it be a good movie that is in the same vein.
Movie on its own.
Yeah, make it. It shouldn't, like, I don't need these. I assure you, we're still here today. Or I assure you, we're open, and variations that don't need that. Don't need those things that are callbacks to very specific moments in their 30-year lives. Like, why are they referring to these specific things that happened 30 years ago in their lives in the specific small window of their that we get to see? Like, I just don't like it. But I still think this movie looks like it could be fun. So you're not sold on it, Danny? Did it stand in any way by itself?
However, well, that's the thing. I was just about to say, I do agree with you that this looks like a trailer. It's going to sound silly, obviously. Fuck it, say it anyway. It looks like a trailer for a movie, in the sense that there is a movie there. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I can see what the story is going to be, even if I don't know the characters or why they feel the need to make their little movie and stuff. I recognise there's some callbacks to some faces that are always stalwarts of Kevin Smith's films, that are Ben Affleck's in there, etc., etc. So I see it all, but I just, again, not being a Kevin Smith fan, I'm like, okay, this one looks like a bit of a self-indulgent thing. Again, go for it. If your fans like it, then I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you, but I won't be watching it.
And as many fans know, this is basically it's an allegory for Kevin Smith's own heart attack that he had, and sort of going back and making more movies and stuff, and I'm sure it's basically a love letter to all that, and good for him on, still making movies and all that, and basically being able to make a career outside of this. And as Kyle just pointed out in the chat, this is what's really interesting is on LR Mornings, 3 years ago.
Yeah,
something like that.
Something
maybe
like
longer.
that. I'll try to find it.
We had a fan who had attended a very specific Kevin Smith event where he had a reading of the first version of this. This was a version way back when, before he had his heart attack. And this version was going to be a weird, over melodramatic tragedy where it would end with Dante dying. And it's just really weird. You can listen to that episode. Find that episode. Maybe we can listen to it later. It's bizarre.
It was October 18th, 2019. This is what Clerks 3 may have been. LR Mornings on the Genreverse Podcast Network.
There you go. So check it out. Check out that episode. We kind of go in depth on the script and what it was back then. But yeah, this is very similar. Kevin Smith even spoke about this on his other podcast and how the other one was very a melodramatic podcast. And as I think he mentioned several times, like, it's like the movie forgot that it was a comedy, that the series was a comedy. Because he was in a dark place in terms of like Hollywood and all that. And this one is, I guess, more celebratory of that. It's him after his heart attack going back, revamping it into something that's more positive. So good for you, Kevin Smith. I'll watch the movie. Will I love it? I don't know. We'll see. But already too many callbacks from my point, but it still looks fun. Kyle, what are your thoughts? I know I'm curious about what your overall thoughts are. I know you did a thing on.
Yeah, you guys could see my reaction on the Genreverse YouTube channel. Look at that, man. I am professional at plugging our shit. I liked it a lot for what it was, but I made sure that I was clear. They have to do what they did in Clerks 2, which is give it something besides the familiarity. You had to have, like you mentioned, the whole Randall's heart attack being the emotional through line. In Clerks 2, it's Dante, knocking up Rosario Dawson's character.
Dawson.
And what it kind of meant for him and his plans that he did have with his fiance at the time, and that's what locked it down. Clerks is just a ridiculously fun look at this crazy world. The two guys in this crazy world of the View universe at their jobs. Clerks 2 actually gave us a real good story, and it's my favorite of his films so far. This one, it's got potential, but it could easily get bogged down in the fact that they're remaking Clerks 1, and it'll be tough to see him balance that. So I'm cautiously optimistic. He cares a lot for the name Clerks, so I'm hoping.
I will say, I think Kevin Smith does a really good, consistent job of writing Randall's character, and Jeff Anderson does a really great job of keeping that character consistent. Like his line about, what is this, a Tinder date, just felt very much in keeping with that character. So yeah, kudos to keeping that character consistent after all these decades. All right. Well, that's enough out of us in terms of news. Let's go ahead and hop into, I guess this is Who Watches. We'll do a preemptive Who Watches before we jump into the movie of the week. And that is Stranger Things Season 4. This past July 1st, so exactly a week ago, the Duffer Brothers dropped on Netflix the last 2 episodes of the season that consisted of roughly 4 hours of content, and brought a close to the saga with Vecna as the main villain and the most, I guess, bifurcated series in terms of where everyone is. We had 11 and co and on the West Coast, not West Coast, on the Western United States area. You got some Joyce and Murray and Hopper up in Russia, and then you got the rest of the crew back in Hawkins. Did it come together satisfactorily? Danny, what were your overall thoughts of this season, and how does it compare to previous seasons? And are you excited for the finale in 2024?
It is my second favorite season after season 1. I do think, and it's made me excited to see what they're going to do with season 5, especially considering the questions that it leaves. Like, well, who actually is?
Knock on wood. Hold on a second. Hold on. Are we going to talk spoilers yet?
Well, I wasn't aware that was going to be, but maybe we could.
Let's do not spoilers first. I just wanted to make sure you weren't about to spoil without a warning.
No, I wasn't going to. I was just going to answer questions. So I am excited about season 5 based on how season 4 finished, and it's my second favorite season. So yes, it's got some challenges, but overall, I loved it. Yep. Season 1 was the one, though, and I think it's because it was this new thing and it was the wonderful piece of originality. So yeah, second favorite so far.
I think it's my favorite. Season 1 is good, but I do feel like it going back and revisiting it, which I had, it just doesn't, not a lot happens. It kind of lingers a bit long and stuff. It sets a great tone and creates great characters, but ultimately, as I was making my way through, I was like, ooh, season 3 is actually better than I remembered it. And season 2 was a lot more boring than I remember it being. And season 1 also was a little bit more boring than I expected it. But season 4, I feel like was it was the most epic, but it also felt more grounded than season 3. Season 3 kind of felt, I don't know how to say this other than saying Scooby-Doo-ish, where you have the kids going into that Russian base, and it was just like, what's happening here? What's going on? It just felt a bit silly.
I'm trying to remember it now because I haven't revisited them. So the supermarket, the shopping mall.
Yes, the mall, 4th of July, and the Russian base.
Gotcha, and the Russian base being underneath the mall that had been built there, especially. Okay, yes.
And season 2 is nondescript. I don't even know what to call season 2 other than the one where Bob got eaten. Was that season 2? That was season 2, right? Yeah, that was season 2. Season 3 was that Russian guy got shot.
Yeah.
And yeah, so anyway, season 4 I think was really great in that it still felt really fun. It still increased the epicness and scope, but I also think it was the most character-driven season since the first one. That first episode was pure character, like just a day in the life, slice of life type show for the most part. And it was just great getting up to speed. I think it has some of the strongest character arcs as well, specifically having to do with Max. Her arc was just beautiful. It was chef's kiss. Eddie as a character, I'm not sure it fully stuck the landing in terms of where they took that character, but it was solid. I ultimately liked it and where they left things. And I also just like all the other characters. I think they did a good job of keeping most of them busy. One could argue that the people on the west in sort of like the desert area wasn't as involved, but I was interested in most of the stuff they were doing. The biggest weakness for me was the 11 stuff. I was bored through most of the 11 stuff. And I won't specify what it was, but it was just like, I think they were afraid of leaving her out of the plot for a couple of episodes. So they just stretched it out over the course of like 3 or 4 episodes. And they could have done that in an episode or an episode and a half. And every single time we popped back to them, I was just like, oh my God,
Are they still doing that?
There's not enough happening. There's not enough happening in her subplot to keep it going. Literally, that's the only real fault that I can look at the season and be like, boom, that's a problem. Everything else worked on an emotional level, and I am just like raring to go for season 5. Though, of course, I have to wait. So in the meantime, I'll just watch season 4 again. I'll just have it playing on the background at some point. Just great character work, great tone. There's one more moment that I thought was weird when we visit Dustin's girlfriend. What a wacky
that family, that household.
Not just that household, but like just the tone was so weird. It was just so bizarre. And I'm like, I felt like we were like in a Disney Channel show or something and not Stranger Things. It was very strange.
It felt like a Cheaper by the Dozen movie.
Yeah, kind of. It was, I could have done with a little bit of pulling back on that end, but that's just me kind of, it wasn't long enough. It didn't take up enough time for me to be like, consider it a huge problem, but it did pull me out of the story. But I know every now and then Stranger Things likes to remind us that this show isn't always super serious, and I'm on board with that. Anyway, any other things you'd like to add about Stranger Things season 4 other than it's your second favorite?
I agree with you with the stuff with 11. I think there's one other segment of season 4 where I think they could have done without, or certainly could have done less of. But I think it would touch too much on spoilers to go into.
Well, if you want, let's go ahead and take this opportunity to say, hey, skip ahead 5-ish minutes.
Yep.
And when there should be some indication if you're scrolling on the screen on YouTube that we're going to switch topics to Thor Ragnarok. So just scroll to where you see Thor Ragnarok.
Love and Thunder.
I put chapters in
Love and Thunder
on our podcasts in the description, and use the YouTube chapters. I mark for spoilers for you guys.
Okay, so check the time code then, and we'll skip from the spoiler stuff to Thor Love and Thunder. So Danny, go ahead and jump into spoilers as to what you can critique about the season.
Yeah, so overall, I do think there was some areas of padding, like we've just touched on. I do think the Russian stuff, as much as I liked the stuff in the prison in Alaska where Hopper is, I do think a lot of that seemed to be unnecessary. And he broke out of prison and went in, and then broke out and then had to break back in again. And they seem to be bouncing in and out of that. The fun thing is, though, I enjoyed the character stuff with, and I forget their name, sorry, Winona Ryder's character and
Joyce and Hopper,
and the new spin-off show from Stranger Things, Murray's show. I enjoyed those two together. I really enjoyed. So it's a kind of a dichotomy, because I think that whole thing seemed to be not really have much value or point, but I still enjoyed it because of the way those characters were working together and growing and having fun and the script and stuff. So, but the whole Russia thing seemed to be a little bit pointless to me, the breaking in and out and stuff. And Hopper, didn't he break his ankle at one point? And that didn't seem to affect anything. And then he was running around in the middle of Alaska with bare feet and didn't seem to have any. And I know these are things that it's just a movie, just get over it. But he did fuck up his ankle really badly at one point, and that didn't seem to affect anything 10 minutes later. And I thought they would have played. When a character has a bad injury, that's not something you can kind of brush over. Surely that's going to affect.
Well, surely it is something you can brush over, because they totally did it, and it still managed to be one of the most entertaining seasons of Stranger Things for both of us.
It's much like Pitch Meeting would say. It was barely an inconvenience, really, him breaking his ankle. It was barely an inconvenience. So the Russia stuff for me, as much as I enjoyed aspects of it, it did seem a bit unnecessary. And even the way they tagged on at the end, well, we need to help the kids by doing something here. And I'm like, well, how how do you know that's going to help the kids, and how do you know what time zone you're in to do all this stuff at exactly the right time? I loved how it was then put together, everything coming together. Visually, it looked fantastic. I loved it when Hopper picked up the sword and stuff. I knew that was coming at some point. But I ultimately felt but that doesn't make a lot of sense. How did you know that was going to help the kids? You're not in contact with them. They're in a different time zone and all this stuff. But I think it's a credit to how good most of the show was, that all these little things that we could pick at a little bit didn't affect my overall enjoyment of the show. I agree with the 11 stuff. The amount of time she spent reminiscing and getting her memories back, that could have been half of an episode. We get the idea. Yeah. She's remembering stuff to get her powers back, but that just dragged on a little bit.
Yeah.
But, like I say, those things did not take away from how much I enjoyed it overall. I love the character stuff. Pretty much most of them are jam, although I felt nothing from Mike in this episode. And I think we touched on it when we spoke about the first few episodes. His behavior at the roller rink, the roller disco, when his girlfriend was being bullied, I just wanted to smack that little shit myself, because
I disagree.
Stood there watching. But he stood there watching, and then when he did decide to do something, though, Jammer, he went to get the DJ to turn the music off. That's not the music is not the problem. But go ahead. I know
that kids are stupid.
That bad. Go on.
Kids are stupid.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
That's the thing. Kids are stupid. They do the wrong things constantly. I think we give kids too much credit, and then we project. Obviously, the right thing is to do this. I agree.
Well, the other kids don't do the things wrong. Do things wrong. They're all making pretty smart decisions. Who's the? God, I'm so terrible with
That's
the
not true. They make terrible decisions all the time. Like, remember that whole time?
They're making decisions to move forwards. They're making a plan to kill the demigods and demigordons and stuff like that. Whereas Mike's just sitting there watching his girlfriend get bullied. No.
Once again, relationships.
But you're right. They are kids.
It's relationships. Kids. Like, there's a difference between making decisions with that and then making decisions with relationships. We all say stupid shit or do stupid things in our relationships. It just happens. So that, to me, I believe it. As annoyed, I was equally annoyed, but at the same time, I'd be like, yeah, stupid kid. Like,
that's what a teenage boy could do. The teenage boy could do that. Do you think, though, that Mike had much stuff to do in this season anyway?
So here's the thing: is that
he didn't have much in it.
That's maybe you can say that for a lot of the stuff this season. Where was it all necessary? No, but I enjoyed all of it. I had a fun time watching it. Like, when everyone had their storylines, with the exception of 11's storyline. Yeah. And like you mentioned, the Russia stuff wasn't necessary. No, but I was enjoying watching it the entire time. Yeah, the character stuff was great. I love seeing the interactions, and as long as those work and things are played up to have some relevance, it's fine. But I don't think Mike had a whole lot to do this season. But that's fine.
But he had a lot to do in previous seasons, so I do think they are spreading the love a little bit to bring all these.
They're spreading it. They have a lot of characters to juggle. They have. Oh God, I'm trying to think here. Who have they added to the main cast? They added Murray. They've added Robin. They've added. Was that it?
I'm awful with the names. I'm sure there's others, but I'm awful with the names. What about the younger sister? The younger sister?
Erica was added in season 3.
Oh, Eric. So that's like we got at least 4 more characters since that first season. 4 more main characters that are doing things, and that's not insignificant. And you got to spread the love somehow. And I think the fact that they are able to incorporate them into the team dynamic, even if they don't necessarily do something that is completely meaningful, is impressive. So kudos to Stranger Things for somehow making it work on a paper level, even if it doesn't, when you kind of look at it, it's like, was it really necessary? No, not really. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I think we obviously agree that exactly. Did not ruin my enjoyment of it whatsoever. It's just in hindsight when you look at it, but no, still wouldn't have a problem watching it again and enjoying those scenes just as much.
No, I started watching episode 1 again, and I'm excited to just kind of go through the whole season again in the background as I'm doing other things. Super stoked.
Yeah.
So Duffer Brothers, man, I said this last like a couple months ago, where several months ago, where it was revealed like, oh yeah, there's one more season after this at least, and I was like, I'm ready the Duffer Brothers to do more original things. I still am, but this reignited enthusiasm in the franchise for me, so I'm on board with it.
Yeah.
So really quick, Kyle is sorry, I have to say this. He says, I'm using my mobile for the podcast. In my mind, I just thought of Bane. Time to go mobile. So there you go. Kyle is going mobile. All right. So any last words about Stranger Things season 4 to talk about? We're going to go jump from there into a completely different world with Thor, Love and Thunder.
I'm glad you said Love and Thunder and not Ragnarok again.
Yeah, it's hard for me not to. I don't know why it's so hard.
Is it because you were hoping this film was Ragnarok?
You know what it is? This is the first Thor movie in a long time that I haven't been writing articles continuously, so it's easier for me to make mistakes about what the movies are called because I'm only half paying attention to the title, whereas before I used to write them a million times a day. But yes, so Thor: Love and Thunder. Currently, the film is sitting at 68% on Rotten Tomatoes with critics, 84% with audiences, and the consensus reads as follows: in some ways, Thor: Love and Thunder feels like Ragnarok Redux, but overall it offers enough fast-paced fun to make this a worthy addition to the MCU. The synopsis is as follows. Thor: Love and Thunder finds Thor on a journey unlike anything he's ever faced, a quest for inner peace. But his retirement is interrupted by a galactic killer known as Gore, the God Butcher, who seeks the extinction of the gods. To combat the threat, Thor enlists the help of King Valkyrie, Korg, and his ex-girlfriend Jane Foster, who, to Thor's surprise, inexplicably wields his magical hammer Mjolnir as the mighty Thor. Together, they embark upon a harrowing cosmic adventure to uncover the mystery of the God Butcher's vengeance and stop him before it's too late. Danny, what is your quick Twitter review of Thor: Love and Thunder?
I'm still desperate not to give too much away from a spoiler thing.
Non-spoiler Twitter.
Yeah, non-spoiler. My Twitter review is a disappointing circus parody of a once loved character.
Ooh, that is harsh.
I know, right?
That's very harsh. Sad. Thanks, Trump. What would you rate this in our? I know we're usually just C-. Oh shit. Okay, you went straight for C-. For me, my Twitter review would be a fun but sloppy entry in the Thor franchise that
no one wants a sloppy entry.
Yes, sloppy entry to the franchise that, oh gosh, what was it? Sloppy entry in the franchise that almost takes away the credibility of the series as a whole.
Yep.
And ends up feeling like a shallow shell of its predecessor. Yep.
What you said, that's one way. Yeah, that's another feeling that I had, is that for me, it's ruined the good work that he did in the previous film and that we've had in the Avengers movies. The way his character was written by I've forgotten the guys that did the Avengers and Endgame. Endgame and Infinity War.
The Russo brothers.
Thank you very much. Yeah, those guys, and what Taika did in Ragnarok built and brought so much character development to Thor from his first two films. And I do feel that this has undone it for me a lot more. I feel a bit more that they've undone it, damaged it, it's taken me out of it, really upset me kind of thing. Whereas as you just said, it's still a fun film, but you feel it has potentially damaged the good work. I feel it has really ruined it. Try not to swear too much, but yeah, really screwed it up. Very disappointed.
Yeah, I could see your point there. To me, it just, on another number of levels, it felt sloppy. First of all, the CG was not great, and I know I say it all the time. CG shouldn't affect the movie, but it just felt there's a lack of congruency between the visual elements in the story. Korg's face looks so stiff when he's talking that it looks like it wasn't fully rendered. There was this scene where Jane is talking and has her mask had appeared, and as she was moving her head, you could just tell it was composited onto her head very clearly.
It wasn't. Yeah, she wasn't clearly wasn't wearing an actual helmet. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah,
it just felt like there was so much focus on giving perhaps freedom to the improvisational aspects that there wasn't enough planning to make everything feel polished. It just felt very rough. And I think that also extends to the narrative. There seemed to be so much room for the improv that there wasn't that much story. There wasn't really enough to really sink my teeth into. And it just ultimately made, and that is highlighted by Jane, who has cancer. And like, is he strong enough to bring someone back into his life, knowing full well that she could very well pass in the near future? That's great, powerful stuff. Taika Waititi is excellent at bringing heavy narrative aspects into his stories, but it just felt like he was let to run rampant with his own, I guess, ADD addled comedic chops and focused too much on the one-liners and not enough on making sure that it's all in service of the main narrative.
It did feel to me, and I love the fact that you're so much better at articulating what it is that I'm feeling about, because it felt to me like he was given a bit too much free reign based on the very goodwill that he earned in Ragnarok, and rightly so. Ragnarok was awesome. I really enjoyed that. I just do feel that it needed someone overseeing a little bit and just reining him back in occasionally when it got to that free reign of adding the one-liners and this, but this could be fun. Let's do that. Tell the special effects guys we want the helmet to change because they're having a bit of a battle about who's got the biggest helmet. That seems funny, but now you've, like you just said, it's made work that's made special effects look unfinished and things. So I think he needed a bit more of a controlling hand, a hand on his shoulder occasionally and saying, just think about that. Think about the big picture. Let's just hold back a little bit and ease off on the humor, because that is a point that I found in this one. The gags and jokes were coming so fast. It was almost like an airplane movie where they were just, he just felt like, to me, he was trying to fit in as many one-liners and gags. Obviously, we've touched on spoilers already with you mentioning that Jane's has cancer, etc. So if you're not familiar with the comics, then that's how she becomes in. So I guess we're touching on spoilers a bit now. So
I would say I would consider that to be a premise spoiler, which I don't consider a spoiler because that's like in the reveal in the first 15 to 20 minutes. I don't want to reveal anything that happens like outcome at the end, but I'm open to talking to sort of like the main setup stuff. But if you want to switch into spoilers, we could do that.
No, we don't need to. I just that was my point, is that the gags were coming too thick and fast and hoping that some were landing. And I think a steadying hand on his shoulder and say, don't forget that we've got a story, and don't forget this is not a lampoon of Thor. This has got to fit in with what he's done before and what we're going to do within the future and how it fits with the other movies that we have in this universe. You can't go completely crazy because that does have an effect on the universe that we've created. And we'll touch on that when we do get into spoilers later. So that's a steadying hand, I think, could have steadied this ship and made this a better movie, both, like you said, narratively and effects-wise and story-wise. I think he needed someone to just be on his shoulder and ask him to question things and slow down a little bit. I think that would have helped immensely. But he's earned the right to make the movie, and you know, so...
I mean, I think this is a situation where, because we've seen from Thor Ragnarok as well as from, you know, Jojo Rabbit, that he has good instincts. And I don't think it's just a matter of he needed someone. It's just maybe his instincts were just off at this point, in my opinion. They were just off. You know, he had a bad day at the office, so to speak. You know, and that's okay. I don't think the movie is bad. I just think it's mid-tier Marvel, maybe. Maybe a little bit less at this point. Like it's okay. It's not great. It has fun moments to it. Like there's some aspects that I thought were really funny and really fun and had like the kernels of greatness in it. especially with the way the story ended. I like the idea of how the story ended and the idea of how the message came full circle and the idea of Thor's overall growth. Those were all great
I
things.
do like that. I did like the simplicity of the story. In fairness, as much as I didn't need it to be connected to all the other films, I like the simplicity of it with that arc that you've mentioned about Thor loving again and the main protagonist, Christian Bale's character. I like the simplicity of it. I just think there was too much fluff around it, like you've just been saying. So yeah, I didn't have it. It didn't need to be an overly complicated story for it to be entertaining.
So I want to go ahead and talk some spoilers. Honestly, we'll talk a little bit about like the actual spoilers, but what I really want to talk about is some of the gags that they had in here. I'm curious about your overall thoughts about them. So if you don't want to be spoiled by anything in Thor Love and Thunder, be it the actual narrative ending, some of the jokes, or the post-credit scene, go ahead and head to the end of this podcast where we sign off, or you can just leave and we'll be fine. We'll be fine. We don't need you here.
We'll be fine without you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who invited you anyway?
Yeah, who invited you? God damn it. I hate this guy. Or girl. Anyway, so let's go ahead and talk spoilers. What did you think of the subplot with Stormbreaker and Mjolnir?
Again, this is one of those things that, that's fun, but I wasn't aware that, and forgive my ignorance in the Marvel universe, any fans, I wasn't aware that Mjolnir was a sentient being that could actually have emotions and feelings and stuff, because that's how it was portrayed. Thor's. So I didn't know that, because that's not been referenced in any of the previous films, whether his standalone films or any of the others.
I think it's been touched on.
Piece of lore. But so that was fun, but a little bit strange. But here's the thing: I did laugh every time the axe slowly hovered and appeared into the screen, because that was like, oh, that's fun, because it's like, don't forget me, I'm your best friend. But then after I laughed, I was like, but that's fucking silly now, because are they got emotions and stuff now? Now I'm confused, although it was funny, because that's a typical Taika kind of bit of comedy, visual comedy, perfect framing of the shot where it just glides into view as the camera pans around. But I didn't buy that. I've not, and I guess that's because my ignorance in the Marvel.
No, I think it was very briefly kind of hinted at. It wasn't really made as apparent until this movie. This movie really went into overdrive.
Yeah. But I did like how in that flashback comedic scene about how they broke up, which was really pretty cool. How and I love the narration over the top of that. How, because they just split up, right? She apparently went off north for her own safekeeping, as far as we knew from Thor 2, whatever it was. But anyway, so that whole story, how they broke up, but how then Thor was saying, you must look after her when I'm gone, and the little glow on Mjolnir to show that some sort of magic had passed, some sort of commandment from Thor had made the hammer now must protect Jane if she gets in trouble. That I like that little link, but it was surrounded by all the comedic stuff. Do you know the scene I'm talking about where Mjolnir happened to be in between them? And I thought that was a really nice touch. Okay, now I've got it. He's unknowingly cast a magic spell from Asgard that now makes the hammer want to look after Jane. And when she gets close to death, as she does, the hammer calls to her, come to me and I can fix you, basically. I'll fix myself.
Or she goes to it.
Or goes to it. But she was called by it, wasn't it? She heard, didn't she say that?
Oh, I guess she did. Yeah.
She did. She said that Mjolnir called me, and so I went, so that I liked that. I liked that bit, but I had no idea that they were sentient beings, or is that not quite what they are?
I mean, I think they are basically on this. I don't think it was hinted at, heavily enough for us to be like, oh, obviously. Yeah, but, it was just him really being liberal with it. What did you think about him feeding Stormbreaker a beer?
Well, so you see, now that would be a Viking thing to do. I can see a Viking pouring a beer over his axe before he goes into battle. But whether or not the axe then got drunk or not, I was just waiting for the boat to sway.
Right?
Because
I was thinking that too.
Right, and that was just going to be me rolling my eyes. Oh, another comedic gag that was funny, but come on, now is everything going to be funny? So there's so many scenes, Jammer, but I will be honest, buddy. The beginning part when when he was with Guardians. And here's my challenge with this. The Guardians and James Gunn's ability to mix humor and comedy with real emotional depth, but keep the seriousness of certain situations is brilliant. And that's why Guardians of the Galaxy works so well. Their comedy, their fun, their gags work really well. They seem to be forced with the Thor scenes with him and into bit part characters, but that made this film too comedic, too much like a circus, too much like a parody of himself. And here's the scene where it lost me. When he did the splits to keep two spaceships from hitting each other, I genuinely thought, what the fuck am I watching now? Because Guardians has shown that you can be funny and still have a serious film, should we say. But now I'm just looking at this airplane sequel film, which happens to have Thor in it. And to jump a few scenes to give you where I completely tapped out, when we had the dumpling god. Right? Because, now that implies then that we've got a donut god and a dog shit god and a candy bar god and an iPhone god, because now you've got gods for everything. Why have dumplings got a god? Dumplings are not sentient beings. And so that was like, well, now you just opened up this world of nonsense. We're now going to have a Krispy Kreme donut god that's going to come down and eat Captain America in the next movie. What the fuck?
I think Kyle reacted.
So anyway, I rambled. I apologize. It was those things that tapped me out.
The bow god. That's what Kyle said.
Oh, thanks, Kyle.
Was a funny moment, but too much in my opinion. And I think that kind of sums up, and you've said this on several occasions already. It's like, it's funny, but it really kind of breaks the world.
Yeah.
And it breaks our immersion in it. Yeah. And I think that
you do words so much better than what I do.
That's because I speak American English.
Nothing to do with you being a talented writer and doing this stuff for a living. You just have to bring in the fact that you Americans speak American, you don't speak English. But go on, you still do words better than me.
Exactly. What did you think of? One thing I really appreciated in this movie, this is a stupid thing for me to appreciate, but I'm going to appreciate it anyway, is the fact that Matt Damon's recurring character in this movie is just a ridiculous thespian. And not only that, you have Melissa McCarthy as one of the thespians, and of course Chris Hemsworth, lesser known brother, whatever Hemsworth, is also back. I just love the fact that they're back, and that legitimately, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Matt Damon continue to come up more as in the MCU in some random capacities. Like, that's his character now. That's just his character. He's not just like a one-off anymore. He is now like canonically maybe character with motivations.
Nick Fury will recruit him in the future to act a certain part because they need an actor to portray someone. And who do we know anybody? And I can see King Thor saying, "Well, I've got this one guy."
Yeah. You just sold me on that. Yeah. He could be someone to help fight the secret invasion.
There you go, exactly. By pretending to be pretending. He could be the dude that's pretending to be the dude that's playing another dude.
Oh, wow, nice deep cut there. It's 2009 all over again, or 2008, whatever year that was.
Yeah, so here's the thing, and I think you touched on it earlier. There was wonderful comedic moments in this film that I enjoyed, but there was too many of the silly ones that took me out of it, and it broke the world. I love the way you said that. It broke the world for me, whereas Ragnarok walked the line, I think, perfectly between comedy and taking Thor's character from a thespian-sounding Norse god into a more human character, for want of a better word, which we all then grew to love and then played great in the Avengers Endgame, etc. But this has just taken a step too far for me, and unfortunately it really took me out of the film and really disappointed me, which is why my score is C-. It's got some funny bits in it, but it kind of ruined the character for me.
I did like Russell Crowe playing with the when he was like demonstrating the thing, and it seemed like he was going to hand it over. Just the ridiculous ways that he was swinging it like a pair of nunchucks or something. It was just ridiculous. I did like that.
Playing with his bolt. He was twirling his bolt.
Twirling his bolt. Is that okay? Yeah, that is exactly what he did. He twirled his bolt there. What did you feel about the post-credit scenes? Specifically the one with Zeus at the end and his son, Hercules, played by Roy Kent.
Again, I laughed and I enjoyed it because it's got that Ted fucking Lasso connection to it, which is just obviously not the character, but the show. But you know what, Jam? Is again, I laughed, but then I felt, oh, for fuck's sake, now the gods are going to be coming after Thor, including the dumpling god, which I couldn't stop thinking about. And here's where it got me. So what now? Right now we have Marvel thinking that we've got a multiverse, but we've also now got the gods that are coming in. And I put this on our Discord channel, which anybody listening or watching right now is more than welcome to come and join us and voice and vent your opinions. Please disagree. Where they've reached for something bigger than the Thanos, than the Infinity Saga, and they've gone multiverse, and now I get the feeling they've gone for gods as well. And I just think they're reaching too much for the bigger, because where do you go after this? You can't get bigger than multiple universes and gods. So my feeling is that they're just reaching for things that maybe we then respond positively to, and that's what they latch onto. And I said in Discord that maybe this next saga, for want of a better word, should have been a smaller saga, just focused on Secret Wars, had that as a one or two, what they call them, phases, right? They're calling phases. Have one
Not
or
anymore,
two, possibly, one or two phases, have the ending of Secret Wars, however that's going to end, but during Secret Wars, hint on a multiverse or hint on gods. And then the next big saga can be the next bigger thing. I think they should have gone a bit smaller than the Infinity Saga, just to kind of cleanse the palate a little bit, but keep us having some fun, and then use that to build towards a bigger one. I think they've gone too big too soon, and they don't know how to actually rein it all in now. So that was my feelings. Oh, this is fun. That's the guy from Ted Lasso. This is going to be, but how does this fit now with everything that they're building towards? That was my long way of saying that. So
yeah, I agree with you. It's not just that they're doing too much too soon, but I feel like, this is going to sound bad, they might be giving their filmmakers too much freedom, and that's leading to a lack of cohesion between the narratives. Where it's like, yeah, do what you want. Yeah, do what you want. Yeah, do what you want. Where's this universe going now? I don't know. They're just doing too many things. They're having too many projects while simultaneously giving the filmmakers too much freedom. And that has led to a lack of cohesion and a lack of direction in this phase or saga of, the MCU. So, and this is just epitomizes that. Like, he clearly went nuts. I don't know if much thought was given to those things about the implications of the Bow God, the implications of, the gods moving forward. It seemed very insular. So I don't know. I think I agree with you.
What did you think of these things anyway, Jeff? You asked me about what I think. What did you think of them? I know you touched on broad strokes on certain parts of these things, but
I thought they were fun. I mean, like I said before, the jokiness and the visual effects just like made it feel very it lacked polish. It lacked substance. There wasn't enough substance to make up for all the jokes. And it also didn't help that a lot of the jokes didn't land for me. Some of them did, but a lot of them didn't. A lot of them just kind of felt like first draft jokes where it's just like, we'll make that a better joke later, but then they never did it. Like Thor never skipped leg day. And I'm like, that was funny in 2010, but like, I think we're past Thor not skipping leg day. I don't think that was that funny. Just things like that, that really just kind of ruined it for me. I don't dislike it as much as you. I'm not as upset by the implications. I can kind of just let that slide. I give it the C+, where it's above average for me. It still has some good aspects to it. Still has some funny moments, but I don't think it's a strong movie. And I still think Thor Ragnarok's much better. But I know also Thor Ragnarok was not a movie I loved initially. The first time I saw it, I was just like, ooh, I don't know. This is weird. I think it's okay. It's a bit shallow, But then I watched it several more times and I was like, no, this is a really good movie. I was wrong. It's better than I gave it credit for initially. And coming out of this, I was like, am I going to feel the same way about this down the line? I don't know. Yeah. But as of right now, it's above average. It's probably...
Well, I'm actually, go on. Sorry, buddy. Carry on.
I'm trying to think here. I think I like Multiverse of Madness more than this movie.
Yeah, me too. And I'm surprised that those words were ever going to come out of my mouth. Going into this film, I didn't expect for me to think Multiverse of Madness was going to be better because I wasn't.
And I think Eternals is better than this movie.
Okay, yeah. I'm actually seeing this movie again tomorrow. I promised a friend of mine that I'd go with them. And when I made that promise, I was under expectations that I was going to love it. And now I'm like, oh, shit, I've got to watch it again. But I'm happy to watch it again and maybe see it with different expectations. And like you said, maybe I'll see it a little bit differently, but I don't think I will, unfortunately. I don't.
One thing I do want to mention is we didn't mention gore this entire time. Probably kind of telling. I like how he was introduced and his motivation, but then he was just kind of made bland and bleh. Like I did
feel that Christian Bale was in. Sorry, buddy. I do feel that Christian Bale looked like he was enjoying it, and there were certain scenes where I felt like he was really getting into the character. When he kidnapped the kids, for example, and he then appeared in the back of the cell they were in, the prison cell, with that snake thing.
Yeah,
remember that
was a good moment
when he pulled the head off. I think
creepy.
he was really embracing the fact that he's actually a mean, evil bastard here. He's actually toying with the kids. He's gone away from just wanting to kill gods, but he's actually purposely trying to scare these kids. And I do feel that Christian Bale looked like he was having some fun with those scenes. I think he did well with what he was given. Yeah, and like you just said, there wasn't much substance to him, but I think he did well. In fact, that opening stuff with him was the longest I think the movie went without some sort of gag, sort of joke being thrown. There was nothing.
It started off relatively serious.
And
I think there was substance to him. It was just wasn't. They gave him substance, but then played him cartoony.
Okay.
To the point where I didn't think there was like enough to really. There wasn't quite enough. Yeah. I do like kind of how they ultimately ended it with him, and ultimately how Thor is now raising his daughter. I thought that was adorable, and I'm curious to see where that goes. But I didn't feel the gravitas of Christian Bale apart from that one scene that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And the thing about that scene is interesting is, to me, it's a great scene, but I don't know if it does anything. I don't think if
it doesn't move anything forward, does it? Yeah,
it's
almost like a few of those scenes in Stranger Things, whereas in Stranger Things it didn't affect the whole how much we enjoyed the show. This was just like, well, that was good, but it didn't really do anything to move things forwards or backwards or anything. Yeah,
it felt like a pickup, like a reshoot scene, like where we need an extra scene so that we feel the threatening of him.
Because we haven't made him out to be bad enough yet, so we need him to do something bad. What can he do? Scare the kids. That will make him. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
You know what in my head canon that's making me try to like this movie more? You know, is it Korg?
Mm-hmm.
The rock dude. Sorry, I'm so awful with his name. You know, when he's narrating stuff and he gets the names wrong, and he said, and his girlfriend Jane Fonda and stuff like that. You know, when he's narrating the story, in my head canon, Jammer, what I'm thinking is this movie is Korg narrating this movie, which is why it goes mad and stupid in certain areas. When actually what actually happened wasn't quite like that. So, for example, in The Gods, there wasn't a dumpling god. That's just Korg adding a bit of artistic embellishment to the story he's telling around the campfire. So what we're watching is Korg's interpretation of the events of Love and Thunder. And that's my head. All the stupid shit didn't actually happen. That's just Korg telling a story.
I can dig
in my
it.
Head. Yeah.
I don't
know how they're going to then tell us that in the next film. Everything you just saw was just Korg's imagination.
I mean, embellished, like the basic backbone happened, like the main things happened. It was just like the feel and the tone and the goofiness was just played up.
Yeah, like Zeus didn't hold his little skirt thing as he walked down the steps. He
came
down the steps. Well, again, I laughed, but now I'm like, so now Russell Crowe's playing a camp Greek god.
He reminded me of King Herod from the Jesus Christ Superstar movie from like the 60s or 70s, whenever that was.
I just kept thinking of The Life of Brian with Julius Caesar.
Yep.
But anyway, I think we've established that there was these moments that made me laugh, and then I felt like I needed a shower because I laughed at something that I shouldn't have laughed at. Should be serious, but no, I did laugh. It was funny.
It's funny. Yeah. All right. Well, Danny gave it a C-. I gave it a C+. Those are our thoughts on Thor: Love and Thunder, the latest Marvel Studios film, and definitely not the last movie that Thor will be featured in. As it said at the end, Thor will return. Whether or not he will return in his own movie remains to be seen, but I know that both Taika Waititi and Chris Hemsworth have indicated an interest in at least continuing things on in the future. So maybe there'll be a trilogy. Maybe there'll be a handoff to the daughter to carry on the Thor name down the line. Who knows? We got the young Asgardians or whatever kind of set up as well. There's many infinite directions that the franchise can go in, so they're not wanting for any lack of that. So what did you think, though? Let us know in the comments or at lrmonline.com what you thought about Thor Love and Thunder. Before I go ahead and close out, where can the fine people... Oh, no, I don't want to close it there yet. Let me go ahead and plug all the things. Well, not yet, because I need to plug all the other shows, because obviously Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast, is not the only show here on Genreverse Podcast Network. We also have Cup of Genre Shots, Animeversal Reviews, and what else? Is that it? No, I know it's definitely
the Cantina.
What I missed? Oh, the Cantina and Marvel Multiverse Mayhem.
Yep.
Which is the Marvel series. Did you guys talk about Thor Love and Thunder yet?
Yeah, they can find review on the YouTube channel or wherever they get their podcast from.
Give us a tease. What did you think?
I gave it a B-, and I think it was just severely unbalanced and underused gore. Good idea for gore. They needed to do more with him to make him have weight and us care a bit more about his situation.
There you go. Thanos would not like this movie because it is severely unbalanced, as Kyle said. So yeah, go ahead and check out Genreverse Podcast Network, both on any YouTube or any podcast platform that you listen on, as well as on YouTube. But Danny, where can people find you?
You can find me at the movies. I'll be watching Thor Love and Thunder.
Against his will, kind of, at this point.
Against my will, yeah.
And you can find me on Twitter at Jam the Writer, and all of my books under the name AJ Cerna on Amazon and Audible. And I would like to take a moment again to thank you, to thank producer Kyle for putting up with us and for continuing to put on the show on a weekly basis. Thank you.
Oh, hold on.
You're welcome.
One more thing though, before Kyle. I do feel I need to say this, Kyle, just to make sure that you have some work to do. Fuck. There you go.
This is the show. That's fine. We can leave that one in.
Because I think Jammer and I did really well. Sorry, Jammer, you just got to sign off. But I think you did well tonight.
Outstanding.
Keeping the F-bombs to the bare minimum. Like we might be able to pass for PG-13 on this one.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening. Be sure to, give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. We can always use the extra bit of love because we are egotistical assholes. And that about wraps it up. I'm not going to sign off like we usually do because the ones who support that sign off are not here. So until next time, we'll see y'all later.